Hey y'all, welcome to episode 2 of our newly kicked off blog series. If you haven't watched our first one yet, go check it out. You can learn a lot more about our CTO, Ryan, and why he chose to come work with us. But this time around, I wanted to take it back to the beginning and rewind with Rajeev, our CEO and founder, to hear a lot more about how dimensional mechanics was founded and where our focus was at the beginning and how it's evolved over time. Interesting enough, Rajeev, I've known you for over 5 years and was there at the beginning as well. I think before dimensional mechanics was even formed as the name of the company, and to see how far this company has grown and evolved has been really exciting. But talk to me about how it all
I
began.
think so. Going back in time a little bit, when I was working for Intel, I'd built a system at Intel that was able to reduce the cost of engineering microchips by reducing the number of faults in microchips quite dramatically. And one of the things that came out of this is that as we were starting to work with AI, I reflected on how difficult it is to work with AI. And AI has been something that has been sort of near and dear to my heart. I've been kind of working with AI, on and off for pretty much like my whole career. I started coding when I was about 13. Actually wrote my first AI program when I was about 13. I was just always fascinated with the area. Like I always thought, like I was very much into kind of science fiction novels, and really got interested in robotics and how the human mind worked. So so fast forward in 2015, I started kind of drafting sort of the blueprints or the architecture of the company. And what my original vision was to create pretty much. I didn't have a name for it. I didn't call it that, but it was sort of the idea was to create a platform to reduce or to simplify the ability to work with AI. But what I was thinking of at the time was, um, can we apply this? So I was initially thinking about going to one vertical, which is at the time like VR was beginning to take off. And I thought, hey, you know what? One of the things you can do with AI is to create synthetic environments. So I thought, why don't we apply AI for that? Like build a platform that we can quickly apply to this particular problem. It turned out that was too narrow focus, and as we started to develop the technology, it became apparent that there's something much bigger, that we can actually build something that uh, can solve any AI problem. And very quickly, it started to morph into the idea of um, an operating system for AI. That was a phrase that was actually not coined by me, but by one of the initial investors of the company, Ken Johnson, who is one of the investors in F5 Networks. So when I first presented it to him, he listened very patiently, and he thought about it for a couple of weeks, and then came back and said, "So Rajeev, you're building an AI operating system, aren't you?" And thus that was born. The actual story was interesting. So I told my wife about, hey, I'd like to start a company. Her initial reaction was no, don't do it. And so she arranged a dinner between us and a friend. And so I think largely to dissuade me from doing it. Then we ended up talking about it. And at the end of it, this friend basically said, "Okay, I'm in. I'm investing." So, just like, okay, great, kind of defeated the purpose, and kind of created the business. But it was a pretty exciting time. And so initially, I think we were exploring all kinds of things. So I think when we first met, I think we were exploring many different avenues. We weren't really thinking at the time so much about commercialization yet, although we were. We had certain ideas about where we wanted to take it, and I remember some of the early work that we're talking about was actually oriented towards explainability of AI. If you remember, it was kind of like the why behind AI, and so that was kind of like something that we initially started thinking about. But over time, we decided to focus a lot more and focus on the actual what of AI to actually build AI systems and automate that part. And then today, of course, we have a platform that can do that. So we've actually achieved our objectives there. And we're now taking it to the next stage, which is pretty exciting. Actually, we've got some really cool ideas, and also as we start to partner with some of our the companies that we're working with, um, it's quite possible that we're really going to truly make this not just simply like an operating system, but in fact a real operating system with the ability to do resource management and all of that kind of nice stuff. So for me, it's an exciting thing. It's quite a journey. I think that uh, I was actually thinking that after all of this, I'll write a book called A Thousand Cuts. So it's, um, it's just there are just so many like as a start in a startup. Uh, Somebody once said everything goes wrong and just two things go right, and it's just about being persistent and not giving up. That you just really have to keep going at, keep going, and along the way, it's keep adjusting pathways or adjusting your path, and here we are. I know that's a very long-winded answer.
Well, I would hope it would be. I mean, I hope people aren't just starting startups on a whim, right? Waking up one day and going after it. Being thoughtful about it is key. Yeah, I remember when we first started, we wanted to start in broadcasting, which
Yes,
I thought
yeah,
was
it's
interesting
media and
because at the
entertainment.
time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you quickly realized Neopulse can be applied to anything, which I think is pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Well, actually, it even goes before broadcasting. We started in gaming, if you'll believe that, because we were
Ah,
thinking about VR and synthetic environments, using AI to generate environments. Because for the more sophisticated games these days, I mean, the cost of building these. So we were thinking, okay, in a VR environment where, in theory, you could walk around objects and you can explore things in more detail. It's just impossible for a human to, like for any organization, to build such a detailed environment. So VR games tend to be somewhat boring for the most part, or limit what you can do. So you're kind of stuck to a single path. But you know what? Why use VR then, in a way? So what we're thinking of is actually, hey, can you completely free up the user and be able to explore this space any way you want? But in order to do that, you have to use AI to be able to generate that environment, because there's no way humans can do that. Well, that turned out to be too big a problem to solve, so we kind of shifted over into media and entertainment, which seemed a natural follow-on um, to this, and we started to develop Neopulse more and more. So the early version of our product was kind of, we had some interesting prototypes that we were kind of demonstrating at CES, and then eventually we started really kind of building out the platform as we see it today. And the version one of this was kind of like a beta version. It came out, I think, about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And then last year we released, I guess, the first kind of proto commercial version of the product. And this year we're kind of targeting true commercialization, which means uh, like getting a hefty Series B investment, as well as starting to recruit actively globally. And we've got some very, very talented people waiting to come on board. And all we're now waiting to just get to, we're working on closing the Series B funding.
love it. And we'll hopefully talk about that more when we catch up next time. So we'll leave the audience hanging on that one. But I asked Ryan the same question. We're all stuck at home right now, staying safe, staying healthy. I know you're in Germany, and I'm in Seattle. We're in various phases of reopening and socializing, but for the most part, I think we're still home. So what, in your probably small free time, what are you doing to keep busy or stay connected with people? What should we know? What should we binge? What should we be doing?
Well, so my days have actually ironically become longer. So I mean, when I was in Seattle, I was actually, I mean, I was working pretty long days, but I kind of had my evenings free, more or less. Um, so here it's not so much the case because now I have a really nice overlap with Japan. And so I don't want to squander that. So my days typically start about 7 in the morning and kind of go on until end of business Japan, which is works out to be about 11, around 11 to 12 a.m., 12 p.m. kind of thing around that time. So around 12 p.m. or so, that's kind of when Japan sort of ends their day. Not quite, but that's sort of like when they do. So I have this really nice overlap about 5 hours, so which is great. It's amazing. I get real-time answers. I can work with customers in Japan. It's pretty fast. And the Japanese are slowly starting to get accustomed to working with Zoom and fall in love with it, I think. Um, and then it kind of like later on in the day is when Seattle starts. Actually, no, it's even worse. Then Toronto opens up, and I have a bunch of meetings with the Toronto investment group, and then that starts, and then of course West Coast starts, and so then that goes on until about 10 at night or so. And in between now, I'm starting to also engage Europe, which is nice, but it also means that the narrow window that I had between noon and 2 p.m. is now gone too. So basically, I'm pretty much on the go for the whole day. On weekends, though, it's great to be here. I mean, Germany is a beautiful country. I love Germany, and it's we're just beginning. So now that restrictions are somewhat lifted, we're starting to explore the area where we're living. So it's a gorgeous area, and goes back to the 10th century. So the local cathedral is about almost over 1,000 years old, and close to our house, like 15 minutes walk, there's some ancient ruins from pre-Christian times, and it's just
Wow,
like literally a 15-minute walk from our house. So it's just another world.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We don't have anything that old in Seattle. So. But what I hear you saying is lots of coffee.
Mhm.
And
Lots of
then we're
coffee.
going to have to do more Jackbox parties during our team meetings
Oh,
to
absolutely. That was
to
fun. Yeah.
it was fun. It was fun. Plus now I'm more competitive. I want to win next time. So we'll have to do that again.
Yeah. You were just discovering the game.
Nice.
So yeah, today.
Yeah, exactly. Now that I know the landscape, I can do better. Well, thank you, Rajeev. It was so great catching up with you. I miss seeing everyone in the office, but as you just mentioned, we're a global company. So I think this is going to be more of our norm moving
Absolutely.
forward anyways. So I hope we
Absolutely.
can keep catching up one-on-one like this. And like I said, I want to talk to you next time about why we're AI dynamics now and no longer dimensional mechanics and where we're going to go from here. So I look forward to that conversation in a few weeks.
Great. Thank you so much, and have a great evening or morning.
You too. Talk
Thanks.
exactly.
All
Talk
right.
to you later.
Talk to you soon. Yep. Bye-bye.